Hmm. Welcome, everybody. This is David with MBLEx Test Prep. Back for another exciting episode of the live stream. Of course, the second I start streaming, I hear my kids screeching in the background. Such is life. Such is life. We're on spring break, so I got the kids at home. So deal with it. Deal with it. Sorry, just making sure my phone was on silent. I don't want that interrupted. So welcome back to the MBLEx Test Prep live stream. So how this works is you ask questions, I answer them. We talk it out and I give advice. We learn a thing or two. We do all of this fun stuff. All about, oh, they're so loud. All about the MBLEx. I apologize if you can hear my kids. I tell them, keep it down. Keep it, stop. So, of course, I have the MBLEx Test Prep study guide, the comprehensive study guide and workbook. I was checking to see if I had one over here right next to me. I do not, unfortunately. MBLEx Test Prep Comprehensive Study Guide and Workbook 2020 edition. You can find that on Amazon. Just search for that. Look for my name. If it doesn't have my name, it's not my book. So you'll know it. Just look for my name. So I have that available. I also have a couple other study guides if you want to. If you need to study kinesiology, I have Kinesiology Made Easy. Pick up the 4th edition. That is the most up-to-date edition that there is. So it goes over muscles, bones, nerves, all of the major muscles of the body, what they do, where the origin, insertion, action, innervations, synergists, antagonists, et cetera, and fun notes about all of these muscles too. So I have that available. I have a pathology book specifically designed for massage therapy. So if pathology is something you need to study, definitely pick that up. Just search for Pathology for Massage Therapy. Again, look for my name on it, and that's about it. So, of course, like I said, it's a live stream. Please ask away any questions that you have. I am here to answer about the MBLEx, about anything that you need to study, anything that you're maybe having a little trouble with, anything that you need clarification on. Just shoot your question over into the live chat, and I will answer as they come. I try to answer every single question that I get, and I usually don't get a ton of questions. So if you have a question, now's the time to ask it, because I have no questions to answer. Just patient. I'm patiently waiting. I am patiently waiting. And I'm not sure if you want me to just keep talking, or maybe I'll just sit. Should I sit here? Should I just sit and wait for somebody? Now I got a few people watching. I got a few people tuned into this live stream. So ask away. Like I said, I'm here to help you. Ask away any questions you have about the MBLEx. Fun thing about the MBLEx that I just saw. Apparently they are suspending Pearson VUE, who partners with the FSMTB to administer the exams, is temporarily closing for at least a couple weeks. So they're not allowing anybody to really sign up or test. So it's unfortunately, or fortunately for some people, you can't take the MBLEx for the next couple weeks. So that might give you more time to actually study. Or some people have been studying and they're like, wait, I was supposed to take the test. Like, can I please take the test? So just be aware that that's happening. The MBLEx was also supposed to increase in price, and they have put a hold on that price increase as a result of all of this stuff happening. So it's still $195 for the exam. Everything else about the exam is the same. Nothing else has changed. Okay, I have the study guide, but I attended school 2010 to 2011. I've taken it multiple times. Last time I tested was October of last year. How long do you think I should wait to test again? You should be testing as soon as possible after your first test, because that stuff isn't going to be as fresh in your mind as it is after you take that test. You take the test. If you fail it, you should jump back into it, because you may see a lot of the same questions any question that you remember from that test, you should write down. And if you have taken the test in the past, or let's say your test is coming up and you fail it again, not you specifically, anybody. If anybody fails the test, and I know it's a bummer. I know it's a drag when you fail that test, but something you can do is just quickly go through all of your notes, any textbooks that you buy, any study guides that you have, and highlight or make notes out of everything that you have possibly seen on that exam. So you know to study that stuff for the next time. The MBLEx, you very well, like I said, you very well may um, see a lot of those questions again, and you want to be as prepared for those questions as possible. And I've had multiple students tell me, that several students have had the same questions on their exams. So the MBLEx may or may not have a set number of questions, like specific questions that they want to test everybody on. So they say maybe these 10 questions, we want to make sure that everybody absolutely knows these. And then it kind of varies the other questions. So if you recognize any of the questions, or if you're looking through your book, you recognize anything from the book that you saw on the test, make a note of it and study that so you're more prepared for the next time. All right. So I know, like I said, if you fail the test, I know it's a bummer, and I know you're going to be upset. You're probably not going to want to look at this stuff again, but that's the best thing I can do. I could do personally if I failed the exam is just immediately go to my material and say, okay, I saw this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and then study that stuff kind of religiously just to make sure that you got that information down. Okay. What is the best way to study for the test? Well, I mean, everybody's different. I don't know what are things that you do, Shannon, that help you actually retain information when you are studying. Like, do you make flashcards? Is the process of actually writing the flashcard what gets you to remember it? Are you a visual learner and you remember by looking at pictures of things? Do you learn by listening to somebody do something or somebody say something? Or are you like a hands-on kinesthetic type person? Do you need to actually touch and palpate things to really get a hang of it? Like, how do you specifically learn? And feel free to let me know in the thing so I can comment. I know a lot of people, we don't really think about how do I learn? How do I retain information? But that's an important part of studying. It's figuring out how specifically you learn. Okay, so writing flashcards, going through the process of actually writing something is a really good way to remember things. So something you can do is, and I know it's when you're in school. I'm going to move this down really quick. There we go. When you're in school, I know we all hate doing stuff like reports, right? The school I used to teach at, they'd make the students do presentations on like these pieces of cardboard and have like diagrams and all this stuff. There's a reason we, as instructors, have you do that kind of stuff. It's not because we're mean, and we're not because it's annoying, and it's not because it's just menial work to pass your time in class. It's to help you actually learn that information. You remember doing things like reports a lot better than if I were to just sit here and just tell you, whatever. Yeah, the stomach has smooth muscle in it, and it churns food, and it makes hydrochloric acid, and that's what helps to break down the food. Like, you're not going to remember that. But if you do a report on the stomach and all the parts of the stomach and all the layers of the stomach and all the things that the stomach makes, if you put that into an actual report or onto like a presentation of some sort, then you're going to remember a lot of that information. I think the last time I did one of these, I was extremely parched. Oh, the medical terminology video. I didn't have my water, so I had to stop it kind of towards the end. I had to get a drink of water. I was talking about 2 hours without any water. Water, hydration, very important. Anyway, so assign yourself things like that, especially in stuff that you don't know. Like if you know the information, it's going to be easy to do a report, and that's not going to help you, right? You're a lot better off actually doing the things that are difficult for you, because the more you go over that information, the more you go out of your way to learn that information, the more likely it is that you're actually going to learn the information. Okay. So figure out specifically what aspect that you need to study, and then you need to study that more than anything else. And if writing flashcards is a way for you to study, then write flashcards. If doing a report helps you learn the information, then write reports. If listening to things helps you do that, I have a podcast, the MBLEx Test Prep Podcast. You should subscribe to that. Everybody should subscribe to the MBLEx Test Prep Podcast. I remember, I listen to podcasts all the time. I'd say, other than when I'm at the gym, working on my huge muscles, of course, which I can't do because my gym is closed now. Very annoying. But when I'm at the gym, that's when I'll listen to music. But other than that, I'm listening to podcasts, and I remember things from podcasts that I listened to years ago because I was doing something around the house, like cleaning, and specifically listening to a podcast while cleaning. And I remember, when that person said that, I was doing this, I was sweeping the floor or something like that. So listening to podcasts, a really good way to learn information, especially in something maybe you're not as knowledgeable in. So make sure you subscribe to my podcast, the MBLEx Test Prep Podcast, so you get all of that information. I think I've got 19 episodes now. Sorry, my cat just jumped up on the desk. We'll see if he pokes his head around, because he likes to get in the way. And he's enormous, so he definitely gets in the way. Oh, there he is. All right, come here. No, not there. See, he gets in the way. Yes, you do. So are there any other ways that you actually figured out that any other ways that that help you to learn the information besides just writing flashcards? Because going through the process of writing a flashcard, you remember doing stuff like that too, which is good. But there have to be other ways for you to learn other than just flashcards. And flashcards are great. I mean, don't get me wrong. Flashcards are awesome. I on my website, which you get access to if you purchase the MBLEx Test Prep Study Guide, I do have video lectures, and I have pre-made flashcards online that you can use on your phone. You do all that stuff, goes backwards, forwards. It'll actually read the stuff to you. There are like matching games associated with it. So the flashcards really good on there. What else do I have? What did I say? The video lectures. I have unlimited practice tests, which are awesome, especially for actually practicing taking tests. A lot of people, they don't know how to take tests, and if you know how to take a test and how to perform well on a test, you're going to do a lot better on the test than if you just kind of do the stuff that you've been doing. Ow. My cat is digging his claws into my knee, making me hemorrhage severely. And if I lose too much blood, I could develop anemia, of course. Okay. Touch body part, learn that way. Okay, so palpation, definitely a good thing, especially if you're doing something like kinesiology, studying the bony landmarks. Okay, you gotta get down. You were in the way. If you're learning bony landmarks and muscles, palpating the body is definitely a great way to learn. Now, if you have access to a cadaver, if you're able to utilize a cadaver, like an actual human body, to learn this stuff, I highly recommend it. And I know a lot of people are have this weird perception about studying an actual body. I used to take a lot of my students to a cadaver lab at the school that I went to. They have like a nursing program, and the school I was teaching at didn't. So we didn't have like a cadaver, but I would set up this thing where I'd take my students into a cadaver, and some of the students were. I remember one specifically. She was like shaking and freaking out, and she was like crying before. And the second she got in there, she was perfectly fine. She was like, "Wow, this is really cool, being able to see an actual body." You take the skin off the body and you can actually see the musculature and you can see all of the bony landmarks and where these muscles attach, exactly what they look like and where they go. Um, I highly recommend seeking out a cadaver if you can. Um, Definitely can help you learn. So, but if you don't have access to a cadaver, I'm not, not many people do. Yeah, find somebody to actually palpate. You can actually even use your own body for a lot of this stuff. Now when you start with the stuff on the back, maybe a little hard to see and to feel. So maybe get somebody else to palpate structures on the back, like the spine of the scapula, or the inferior angle of the scapula, the spinous processes of the vertebrae. Definitely find somebody else. My cat just jumped back up on the on the desk. It's driving me nuts. He's driving me nuts. He wants to be a YouTube famous, they say, of course. So definitely palpate. Definitely move the body and palpate muscles that are supposed to be doing that action. And my study guides, it shows you exactly where the muscles are. So you should be able to palpate the muscle while somebody is performing the action, or you could even perform the action yourself. If I want to do elbow flexion, see what muscles are doing that. I know that biceps brachii and brachialis and brachioradialis all flex the elbow, so I would palpate those and feel those tighten up. He's killing me. He's killing me. Okay. Yes, I know. You're very happy, purring, in fact, but you are in the way. Go lay down. Have to yell at my cat to go lay down. When that's all he does all day is lay down. My study guide is the MBLEx test prep study guide. You can go to Amazon, go search for MBLEx test prep comprehensive study guide and workbook 2020. You'll see it. It's like a bluish green color. Has a young lady on the front, and like I said, look for my name on the book. It's right at the top. David Merlino, LMT, right at the top. Look for that so you know it's my book. People have stolen my MBLEx test prep name. It's very frustrating. So always look for my name with any book that you want to buy from me. That's all you have to do, really. Just go to Amazon, look for, or you can type in my name, David Merlino. That's Merlin with an O at the end, and all of that will come up. So anyway, like I was saying, if you want to, before Bear Grylls interrupted, if you want to figure out what muscles are performing flexion of the elbow, I mean, you can look and you can see muscles kind of tightening up, but palpation definitely. Especially if you know the muscles that are supposed to do it first, you palpate those muscles like biceps brachii. Palpating my biceps brachii, and I can feel it tightening up as the elbow is moved into flexion. Okay, and a lot of people don't know that biceps also supinates, but you can see when I perform supination, biceps also contracts there. So your own body is a cheat sheet. Use it. Have somebody else perform the action so you can see the muscles in somebody else, especially if you have somebody that's extremely toned. If they have toned muscles and you can really see all the muscles, definitely have somebody help you out and use their body as a cheat sheet too. That's what I recommend. If you learn by touching, then touch, palpate, move the body. And of course, cadavers if you can. Because there's only so much you can read out of a book. Unfortunately, you need to have that actual that close interaction with those structures. to make it really memorable. I used to tell my students that the pes anserinus, which is a spot on the tibia, right next to the tibial tuberosity, just medial to it, it's the name pes anserinus means goose foot. And I say it looks like a goose's foot. It has the 3 points, just like a goose's foot. And they just don't believe me until I take them into like a cadaver, and then I say, "Hey, look at that! Look at that spot right there. What does that look like?" And they're like, "Wow, that looks like a goose's foot." I'm like, "Hey, what do you think that is?" "Oh, it's the pes anserinus." Yeah, that makes sense, right? Um, so if you can use a cadaver, definitely do it. Hello, Shay. I see you. Your hand. Is that a wave or a high five? I can give you a high five. There you go. High fives, of course. So more questions. Let's have more questions about the MBLEx. Any materials that we want to talk about? I am here for the time being. I'm not going to be here forever. You know what, Shay? That was a high five. I have taken that over. It is a high five. It was not a wave. So, what other questions do we have? Hi there. I'm a big fan of your. Well, I appreciate that. I'm a big fan of myself too. No, I'm all right. I guess. I'm a big fan of anybody that is willing to study and pass the MBLEx, of course. Just order the 2020 book. Okay, high five. Hey, double high fives, triple high fives for ordering my study guides. Study guides are really good, especially if you feel like you need study guide. Not everybody needs a study guide, but for some people that need to really focus in on that material. Like if I were to take the MBLEx, I don't need a study guide, obviously. But if you feel like I just don't know where to start, study guides are a great way to do that, and I think mine is the best out there. So. What is the best way to remember anatomy and physiology? That's a tricky question because I don't know what aspect of anatomy and physiology are we talking about? Are we talking about just the overall parts? What specifically everything does? Or are we talking about all of it? Or are we talking about none of that? You tell me what aspect of anatomy and physiology you're having trouble actually remembering, and we'll figure it out. I will say, however, medical terminology, and I say this all the time on all of my podcasts, on every video that I make, medical terminology is one of the most important things that you can study. And I just made a video a couple of weeks ago where it's nothing but medical terminology, where I go over all of the major medical terms that you need to know, except one. I think I forgot one. I apologize, and I'm not going to say which one because then you're going to judge me. I'll let you figure it out. You figure out which term I forgot to add to the video. But medical terminology applies to not just diseases, but structures in the body. Now, a really good demonstration of this is the adrenal glands. So you look at the term adrenal, and that basically tells you where they are in the body, and that can help you remember, well, where they are in the body, and kind of what they make too. They make adrenaline, right? So the prefix ad means towards. Okay, renal means kidney. So the adrenal glands are towards the kidney. So they sit directly on top of the kidney. So that alone, if you know medical terminology, you can figure out a lot of stuff just by knowing the medical terms. So make sure you study that medical terminology video. It's 2.5 hours of just nothing but educational content that'll help you out immensely. So study your medical terms, and that can help you out Like, here's another example, what the adrenal glands make. Some people say adrenaline. I use the other term, epinephrine. Epi means above. Neph means kidney. Ren means secrete. So they secrete and they're located above the kidney. I don't know. Medical terminology is pretty good. So if you know your medical terms, you can figure things out just by looking at the names, right? And so I'm reading this a couple statements. I graduated in 2017, failed the test, so I'm ready for it now. Thanks for the easy to digest content. I appreciate it. Double high five from Shay. You're welcome, Shay. I know you'll do great, Shay. If you got my study guide, just put it to use. Watch the videos, listen to the podcasts. You'll be good for sure. Oh, on medical terminology, I've been studying that. It's been good. Awesome. Make sure you keep studying. Make flashcards out of your medical terms, of course. For pathology, must we remember all the treatments to them? General rule of thumb I have, if there is some sort of inflammation, like if I have cellulitis or something, that's a bacterial infection in the skin. Bacteria enters into the body through wounds, right? That would be considered a local contraindication. Anytime there's any type of inflammation or generalized local infection, there's going to be a local contraindication associated with that. So just in general, inflammation, avoid it, right? If it's a systemic condition, like if that bacterial infection from cellulitis enters into the blood and causes you to be septic and have a fever and nausea and diarrhea, all this awesome stuff, of course, then any real systemic inflammation and infection is going to be an absolute contraindication. So if there's inflammation, local contraindication. Okay. If an area is damaged at all, that's going to be a local contraindication. You're not going to work on that area for the most part. There are always exceptions to the rule, of course, but in general, those are just in general things that you should know. All right. So some cases it's like you can work on it if the client is feeling up to a massage. You can't if they aren't. I'm not sure why a client would show up if they don't want to get a massage in the first place, but clients are weird. We all know this. Clients are weird. So something like multiple sclerosis, some people may not want to get a massage. Some people may really want to get a massage. So stuff like that all kind of depends. So kind of know which disorders, which conditions are just local, which ones are absolute. You can make a list of that too, like which ones are local, which ones are absolute, and then which ones are okay or not okay, depending on what the client is feeling or other aspects. Right, like chronic bronchitis is an example. If a client has chronic bronchitis, that means they're doing something like smoking a lot, usually. And in that case, you should be okay to work on them and actually do stuff like tapotment, which can help loosen phlegm that might have built up in the respiratory tract. But if they have acute bronchitis, that means that they have another condition like the flu or pneumonia, which is causing the bronchial tubes to become inflamed. And once those go away, those are absolute contraindications, of course, because those are contagious conditions. But once those go away, then the acute bronchitis goes away. So make lists. Lists are really good. Break stuff down into lists, and that's probably something I'm going to add to my next study guide also. Just lists of things. Like, it's okay to work on this. It's not okay to work on this. You need a doctor's note for this, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, I've been rambling. I'm missing a couple comments. Best way to learn origin and insertion. I don't know. Palpation, actually moving the body. Here's something to remember. If we're talking about a muscle that attaches to a limb, like any of these muscles, like biceps brachii or brachialis or brachioradialis or pronator teres, any of those muscles that attach to limbs, the origin is always more proximal than the insertion. So if I'm talking about biceps brachii, it has two origins, the coracoid process and the supraglenoid tubercle comes down here all the way to the radial tuberosity. See, the origin is more proximal than the insertion. So that can help you remember which is which in regards to those muscles. And really, there aren't that many structures that you need to know. And a lot of structures, maybe like the pelvis, are some people are kind of intimidated when they look at a picture of the pelvis. They're like, there's too much. There's too much here. But if you I'm a big proponent of breaking things down into more manageable pieces, right? So if you see a picture like the pelvis, just remember that each side of the pelvis is made of 3 bones. And if you break the pelvis up into those 3 bones, then you only have a few things to remember on each bone. Like in my study guide, I only have 4 things listed on the ilium that you need to know. We got the iliac crest, the iliac fossa, the anterior superior iliac spine, and the anterior inferior iliac spine. You break it down to that, there are only 4 things to know on the ilium. Now, it's like you're adding a couple extra bones to your entire list of things that you should know, but it's much simpler when you do that. Like the ischium, there's only 1 thing on the ischium that you need to know. So yeah, the overall picture. Like if I throw up if I put a poster up here of all the muscles and all the bones and all the nerves and all that stuff, all the organs, you look at all that and you're like, I need to know all of that. Like, man, that's too much. But if I give you one at a time, you're like, oh, that's not that bad. And then eventually you will obtain all of those pieces of information, right? So origins and insertions, again, if it's a muscle that attaches to a limb in any way, the origin is going to be more proximal than the insertion. Okay, that doesn't really apply to muscles in the center of the body, the central body region, we call it. But I mean, you kind of figure that out, I suppose. So palpation, feeling a muscle when it contracts, following that muscle where it is, writing down the terms on your own body or on somebody else's body is a great way. I'm looking for like a marker so I can actually show you that I practice what I preach. I'm at my wife's desk and she doesn't. Hold on. Is this a pencil? Find a pencil. That's not going to work. But like if I was having trouble, you could actually even draw the muscle on yourself or on somebody else, which I highly recommend, especially if you're an artistic person. But even if you're not, still going through the trouble of drawing and labeling on yourself can be a good way to remember that information. So I would draw the short head of the biceps coming down here all the way down to the radial tuberosity. I would draw the long head going all the way up and joining with the short head right about here all the way down to the radial tuberosity. I would label on myself radial tuberosity and have maybe somebody else write those up there. That'd be a little difficult to write those yourself on there, but if you could write it on somebody else, even better. If you got kids love weird stuff like that. Kids are weird. So do stuff like that. That can help you remember the origins and insertions. Again, it's doing stuff other than just reading information out of a book that's going to help you learn that information, right? I'm just not one of those people that learns by reading directly out of a book a lot of the time. I mean, some things, yes, you can actually read out of a book and retain the information. Other things you kind of need the hands-on, right? So that's how I would recommend learning the origins and insertions is get the information from the book. And then like in my book, I've got all the muscles that you need to know labeled there, their origins and insertions. Identify those on somebody else, draw them on, or identify those on yourself and draw them on. And then label, of course. Label. You'll remember doing stuff like that, I promise. Okay, a couple more. From your experience as a teacher, what do you feel some pathology questions would be like, as in their structure? How the MBLEx works is it gives you a lot of scenario-based questions where it's like, this person does this person does this. What happens if this person does this? And it's really, you kind of, my kids are right outside my bedroom door. I don't want to check. It's like they know the second I start doing something like this. It's like, no, we have to be as loud as possible. So anyway, so it'll give you this entire scenario, and it really only comes down to 1 or 2 sentences that you actually have to pay attention to. And it's like, okay, well, if this person is carrying something heavy, that means they're doing this with their shoulder. My cat is back on the desk, by the way. Just be prepared for that. They're holding their shoulder up like this. What muscle contraction is occurring in this specific muscle? It's an isometric contraction. If you're carrying it on over a distance, if you're just shrugging, doing, okay, dude, I would kick him out, but he will scratch at the door and make even more noise. I apologize for my cat. Bear Grylls is showing you how to survive, of course. So they're kind of built like that. You're not going to get just straight, what is this condition? And I know I've got a decent amount of those questions in my study guides, but the reason I have all of those questions for you is, yes, I want to test you on the information so that you know it, but I also want you to study actually, or practice actually taking tests. It's like I said, if you know how to take a test, you will test better than if you don't practice taking tests. So use if you have my book, yes, use the practice test to test your knowledge and what you actually know, but also use the practice test to practice actually taking a test and practice your test taking techniques. And I have an entire podcast where I cover all of that stuff. Make sure you're listening to the podcast, please. Please listen to the podcast. Yeah, so that's kind of the information I can give you about the diseases and stuff that you may be tested on. Like I said, they won't. Very few questions on that exam will be like, what causes cellulitis, or what causes cold sores? I'm always terrified when he jumps around me because he scratched me up pretty good. You can see his latest battle wounds. That was from like three months ago. Ugh. He's got sharp talons, as Napoleon Dynamite would say. Right? He just wants to be on camera. Anyway, Shannon, I appreciate that. You will love my book. I promise. Also, I was thinking of studying the innervating nerves to the muscles. Do you believe that is wise, or perhaps I might be overstudying? I think that's my problem. Overstudying is a thing that people do. Typically, if it's not in my book, I don't want you studying it. If it's in my book, you should study it, and some things you should study more of that are in the book, of course. Dude, like I said, all he does all day is lay down. And right now he won't. He's driving me nuts. So I have a podcast where I go over the spinal nerves. So make sure you listen to that. And that's pretty much all you need to know about that. And the nerves are one of those things, a lot of people are confused by the nerves. Like they don't know where what nerves innervate what muscles, but really all you have to do, if you learn, there are really only like 15 nerves that you actually need to know, if that. You don't really need to know the cranial nerve. I mean, there are a couple cranial nerves that you need to know, like the trigeminal nerve goes here, into the nose, onto the maxilla, and then down into the mandible. You got the facial nerve, and God, what else? The vagus nerve. The vagus nerve innervates the diaphragm. It's responsible for peristalsis also. Those are the 3 cranial nerves that you really need to know. If you know those, and you know the 5 nerves that come out of the brachial plexus. See, we got the musculocutaneous nerve, the radial nerve, the ulnar nerve, the median nerve, and the axillary nerve. If you know where the nerves are in the body, you know what muscles those nerves innervate. They match up. So like the axillary nerve comes through the armpit and wraps around right here. So just just knowing that it wraps around right here, what muscle right here would it innervate? Now, if you said deltoid, yeah, you're right. If you said something else, probably not, unless you said teres minor, because that's also innervated. If you know the musculocutaneous nerve, where that is, it runs right here. So what muscles are in this area? There are only 3 that it innervates: biceps brachii, brachialis, and coracobrachialis. So you identify where the nerves are in the body. If you can remember where the nerves are in the body, then it makes remembering which muscles are innervated by the nerves so much easier, right? And that's something else you can label on yourself. You can draw on yourself all day long. You can go the extra mile and get a tattoo of this stuff if you're really that worried about it. I have tattoos, lots of tattoos. No, I'm not sure if they would let you go into the testing center without that covered. I don't know. You try it out. I wouldn't recommend it. Don't get a tattoo of this stuff. You just draw it on yourself, write it on yourself, label on yourself. So my podcast, you can find, just go on like any podcast service, any podcast app. I use, it's called Downcast. You see this is what it looks like. It's this one right here, the red one. That costs like $3, but you get all of your podcasts on that. All you have to do is search for the MBLEx Test Prep podcast, and it'll come up. Let me pull it up for you, dude. My cat is back on the desk. Hold on, I can't see it. There it is. MBLEx Test Prep podcast. You just search for that. You can see all of my old episodes. Yeah, I've actually listened to all the episodes. They're not there, but that's all you have to do. Just go into any podcast service and search for it, subscribe to it, and the second I upload a new one, it goes directly to your device. Or you can go on my website, mblextestprep.com, and there's a little thing up there that says podcast. You can listen to it directly on my website. Definitely listen to those, and you will learn a lot of information. You can listen to them anywhere. And that's part of the reason I made a podcast, is to give you this information in a more convenient manner. See, whoa, he's got my shirt, and that's how he scratched me the last time. He just dug his claw directly into my pec major, of course, and tore me up pretty good. Okay, let me see. I have to read the messages really quick. I promise I'm not having a stroke. Be nice to the kitty. Mine is being good and will be curious. Well, listen, my cat, I am nice to him. I'm being incredibly nice to him. Where is your podcast? Where can I find your podcast? Just went over that. Can you make a podcast with the cell? What is the cell? What does that mean? Do you want me to talk about the parts of cells? Because I could potentially do that. The cells aren't necessarily important. I don't know if I don't know. I could probably do that. If you have a suggestion on podcast episodes that you'd like me to cover, definitely send me an email or leave them down below in the comments section. Just suggest something that you'd like to hear or see out of me. And who knows, when my children are cooperating and not being loud and my kid is back in school, it's spring break now. We get 2 weeks, and our governor gave us an extra week on top of that. So 3 weeks. I got almost 2.5 weeks now before he goes back to school. Maybe. So I need as quiet of an environment as I can possibly get. So I have to wait for the younger one to take a nap before I can record a podcast, because it just doesn't work. So if you have an idea for a podcast, let me know. Send me an email, david@mblextestprep.com, or leave a comment down here and let me know what you'd like me to cover. Make sure you check what I've already covered, just so you don't waste your time. You don't waste my time making me read it for the split second it takes to actually read a comment. Yeah, so definitely subscribe to that. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you for picking up my study guide. It's a heartwarming feeling when people actually pick up my study guide. I'm just a small man in this big crazy world, trying to make a living, and I'm not one of these corporations that where all they do is make study guides like for countless other tests, and the MBLEx is just one random one they just happen to make. Like, this is what I do. This is how I make my living. I'd like to think I know what I'm doing, and I appreciate every single one of you that picks up my study guide. It's much appreciated. Thank you. And of course, if you love the study guide, please leave a review of it on Amazon for me. That would be much appreciated. Yeah. Anyway, so any other questions? What else do you need to know? What other questions can I help with? A lot of, how do I learn this? How do I remember this? Well, kind of gone over a lot of that, haven't I? Is there anything specifically that we want to know? I kind of gave you a little bit of information about the musculocutaneous nerve, the axillary nerve, the trigeminal nerve, the facial nerve, the vagus nerve. I gave you information about the vagus nerve. Lots of nerves. Even biceps brachii, I went over that, didn't I? Yeah. What other information are you having trouble with? And of course, if it's not relevant to the exam, I don't go over it. So just keep that in mind. But what other questions? What other questions can I possibly answer for you, my dear watchers, subscribers? I don't know. Anything? Nothing? Nothing? Anything? Everything? Everything, of course, everything. But that's what the podcast is for. So definitely subscribe to the podcast. And of course, if you pick up my study guide, you do get access to almost 13 hours of video content where I talk about all this stuff. The video lectures, I call them, including the free medical terminology video that I just uploaded a couple weeks ago. You get that for free, of course, but I got videos on pathology, anatomy and physiology, kinesiology. I got muscle actions and bony landmarks. Those are two separate videos, and one on massage therapy and all that entails, everything about massage therapy that you could possibly know. Thinking about adding more videos in the future, and I just need time and resources and people to do these videos that I have up here in my head. So I'm going to stay on for another couple minutes just talking, unless somebody has a question. If you got a question, again, now's the time. And yes, answering questions, that's what I do. I appreciate it. I appreciate helping and helping figure out all of this fun stuff. The MBLEx is a challenging test for sure, and I know a lot of people need a little extra help getting through it. So that's why I'm here, and I appreciate everybody that trusts me when it comes to helping you prepare for your massage and bodywork licensing exam. MBLEx, of course. So, again, I do have the study guide available. Just go to Amazon.com, MBLEx Test Prep Comprehensive Study Guide and Workbook 2020. Just look that up pick that up. It's not specifically designed for the MBLEx, but you can use it to prepare for the MBLEx. So that's called Kinesiology Made Easy. Make sure you look for the 4th edition. That is the most current, up-to-date version. Again, if anybody has any questions, ask them in the chat, in the live chat. The live chat. Am I pointing the right way, or is it backwards? Am I pointing the right way? Somebody let me know. Am I pointing towards the live chat, or is it this direction? I don't know. It's backwards on my screen, so I'm always confused. But definitely comments down here if you want to comment. Subscribe to my channel so you get all of my latest videos whenever I upload one. So I'm going to try to upload the podcast to YouTube as well. Try to do a video component with those. They take time, unfortunately, to make them as I want them to be. It takes time. So Geez, what else do I have? If you need to study pathology, I do have a pathology guide. Pathology for Massage Therapy, it is called. So look that up. Second edition is the most current. What else? I don't know. Just waiting for somebody, hopefully, to ask me one more question. Hopefully, I know some people don't appreciate how much time I talk. I'm sorry, I can't just sit here. That's awkward. So please ask me a question, please. Any question, within reason, of course, about the MBLEx or materials that you want to study or anything like that. Because if I don't hear anything in the next 10 seconds, then I am out of here. Okay. Well, we got 3, 2, 1. Okay. So I am going to sign off. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully I helped a little bit and gave you some insight into how to prepare for the MBLEx and gave you a little bit of knowledge. So again, check out all that stuff that I've got. I appreciate it. Until next time, this is David saying so long. Farewell, Shannon. Finally, somebody asked me a question as I'm about to sign off. Shannon, when the next time you go live, I don't know. I kind of just do it spur of the moment. I try to give as much notice as possible, but subscribe to my channel so the next time I am live, you will get that notification. You should, anyway. And I'll try. Of course, I always forget to post a notification on YouTube itself, which is weird because it's on YouTube. I'll post something on it that says I'm going live at this time on this day. And it's usually like a day before or even that day I have it. I'm like, I haven't done a live stream in a while. I'll just do a live stream. So subscribe to my channel is the point, and you will get notified when I am doing a live stream. So you hopefully won't miss it. And think of some other questions that you could ask me the next time I do a live stream. I'm going to try to do it hopefully one a week, maybe one every 2 weeks. Something like, and I say that. I said that about the podcast, and well, that doesn't really happen as often as I'd like. Soon, though. Soon. There will be more. So subscribe. You'll get notified, and subscribe to the podcast so you get those whenever they're available. Okay. So until next time, unless I've got any other questions, again, in the next 10 seconds, I am going to sign out. So what? Supination, pronation. Supination, pronation. I don't know. People don't wave like this, do they? Do they? Supinate, pronate. Supinate, pronate. Do they? Adduct, abduct the wrist. That's how we say goodbye. That's how we wave, right? Adduct, abduct, adduct, abduct, adduct, abduct. Goodbye.